if the global average temperature of this planet reaches 1.5 degrees Celsius higher than it is now, terrible things are going to happen. We're going to reach the point of no return, and it just makes us sound like we're all going to die because this thing that I don't understand is going to happen. 1.5 degrees? Give me a break. So if I go outside and it's 70, we use Fahrenheit here. So if I go outside and it's 70 degrees Fahrenheit, I know that's warm. If I go outside and it's 71.5 degrees Fahrenheit, that's not dramatically warmer. What are you talking about?
In comparison,
Tell me that it's getting like 50 degrees warmer and then I'll be alarmed. Nobody understands what 1.5 degrees means. It takes understanding, it takes nuance, it takes detail. Whereas the disinformation takes 4 words, 3 words.
Welcome to Sustainability Transformations podcast, where we explore bold ideas to drive positive change for people, the community, and business. Today's guest is mission-driven, creative, strategic, and climate educator. Bobby Donohue is the creator of Planet Bonehead and the force behind Mission Possible, helping greentech founders transform their breakthroughs into free climate education for kids worldwide. And the key goal of our discussion is to explore how sustainability transformations need cultural and generational reach. So making the mission possible, turning those climate breakthroughs into education for 100 million kids. Bobby, thank you so much for joining. What inspired you to blend environmental science with storytelling and focus with the mission on kids?
Yeah, that's great. Thanks. Well, thank you, Enoch. I appreciate being here, first of all. And so thanks for having me. So what inspired me? Well, I'm one of those people who just like has things inside of them and I can't shut up about them. So I've tried lots of different things like spiritual stuff and stuff for artists and stuff for entrepreneurs. And this is the one that I've always come back to. It's always been like the one that was the most important to me. I started Planet Bonehead almost 20 years ago when my kids were very little and my son was just born. He was an infant, so I had little kids and I was concerned about the world and the environment. And I was realizing that most of what people knew about climate change was wrong. It was just all misinformation and myths over facts. I decided that I didn't really enjoy arguing with other adults about it because they didn't want to hear it. And I would just end up banging my head against the wall. But little kids tend to not have any of those preconceived notions or any of those worries like we can't afford it, and things like that. So I was just like, I'm going to teach little kids about the environment and get them to understand how spectacular and amazing our planet is. That's how Planet Bonehead started in the beginning. It was generally environmental science. In recent years, though, with everything happening with climate change and things that have been happening politically, around the world, but especially here in the United States, I wanted to focus Planet Bonehead on teaching climate science, but also introducing kids to the green technologies that we already have. We could solve climate change tomorrow. We have the technology, we have the financial capital, we have everything that we need except the cultural acceptance. We don't have the political will, but the reason we don't have the political will to do it is because the people don't believe in it. They just don't care enough about it. We haven't reached that tipping point where more people care about it than don't. And I believe that education is the key to that. So I'm teaching little kids about it, but I'm also teaching the teachers about it because they're just as susceptible to misinformation as anybody else. They're not climate scientists. They don't know everything. And so that's what Planet Bonehead's mission is right now, to tip those scales and make green technology more culturally viable and accepted.
Yeah, that's impressive with the generational focus. So what is Planet Bonehead and how did it evolve from an idea, as you mentioned, with the young children into a global educational platform?
Great. Yeah, so Planet Bonehead itself is an educational program. It's designed to teach kids in grades 3 to 5 about climate change and introduce them to green technologies that we already have. And the way that it works is I do it in 4 steps. So I'll pick a unit, I'll pick a topic, say ocean plastic garbage in the ocean, or recycling, or something like that. and I make a cartoon with my characters, the Boneheads, and the cartoon is basically just a soft introduction, a way to bring up the topic without scaring the pants off of little kids, because let's face it, climate change can be a scary topic even for adults to talk about. So I'm not trying to scare kids. So the cartoon just kind of touches on the topic, brings in some lightness and comedy, and lays the foundation for the real plot points, which are the educational points that I make in the coming segments of the unit. The next segment is something I call It's Your Planet Too. And this is a documentary segment where I explain the problem. The problems are real, and the problems are important to understand. They affect all of us. They affect marginalized communities generally more than they affect rich communities, and they affect poor countries harsher than they affect rich countries. So a lot of times the kids who grow up in the privileged communities in the richer countries, they don't really understand why this is important. They hear about it, but they don't understand why it's important. So I'm trying to use equity, empathy, and empowerment to sort of level the playing field a little bit and let them know, like, just because this isn't happening on your block, in your neighborhood, doesn't mean that it's okay that it's happening to these kids here or to these people here or to this country here. And kids get that, by the way. Kids understand that. They're not okay with it. Grown-ups are like, well, it doesn't affect me, so I don't care. Kids don't have that yet. We teach that to them. So I'm trying to not teach that to them. I'm trying to counter that teaching early. That's one of the reasons why I do this with kids instead of fighting with adults about climate change, because I can't do that anymore. So, but that's the problem, and the problem is real. And the next segment is called Think Like Engineers. And this is my favorite part, because this is where I say, okay, that's the problem. And you may know about that, but what you may not know is that there are people who have already solved this problem. We have the solution to this problem already. It's not like a thing we don't know how to fix. This company here created this greentech thing. This company over here has this amazing invention. This company over here has this process that we could do it tomorrow if we wanted to. And the kids want to. When you tell the kids that here's a problem and here's the solution, their minds go to, how do we make this solution better? Whereas adult minds go to, we can't afford that, or that means I'm not going to be able to do the thing I like to do because now we have to spend money on that. The kids don't have that problem. They just imagine even better solutions. And then the fourth part is called You Have the Power, and it's a song, a music video that empowers them to go outside in their backyards, in their schoolyards, in their neighborhoods, and actually do something right now. They can do something that is a part of the solution right now, immediately. And that's the empowerment part of the program. So that's the program itself. In addition to that, I'm making courses for teachers so that they can learn the truth about climate science. They can understand the myths versus the facts. They can understand the specifics of this green tech versus that green tech. A lot of people look at wind power, for example, and they think, oh, it's killing whales. It's not. It's not killing whales, but it's a myth that's been permeated into our culture because fossil fuels don't want us to use wind power. They want us to keep burning coal and oil. So they say, oh, the wind is burning whales. No, it's not. So I'm trying to counter that through education. So that, as quickly as I could do it, is what Planet Bonehead is.
Yeah, that's impressive. I'm curious to know how grown-ups or those who are above the children, did it come about? Is it through the media proliferation of sensitizing adults to always go towards the challenge of, or we haven't got enough money compared to the children? I'm curious to know, how did it come about from the various forces who want society to keep on the status quo of more fossil fuel?
Yeah. That's a really good question. In a nutshell, what I believe has happened on our planet is we have a capitalist system that is designed to make money and grow. A capitalist system has to grow in order to justify its own existence. So if it makes this much money this year, it can't make this much money next year. It has to make this much. And then it has to make this much. And then it has to make this much. And that kind of growth becomes unsustainable in an equitable way, meaning there is no way to have that kind of growth unless you are growing on the backs of slaves or you are growing on the backs of marginalized people who maybe they're not technically slaves, but they're making 15 cents a day. They're slaves, you know? So this is the way capitalism works. That's not the way children work.
Mm.
Children, if one kid has lunch and three kids don't, that kid is going to share their lunch. But
Yeah.
in capitalism, if one company has lunch and the other three companies don't have lunch, that company with the lunch wants to figure out how to get whatever crumbs those other companies that don't have lunch have. They want
Yeah.
all of it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And this is a psychosis. It's 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 completely counter to human survival.
Mm.
So what ends up happening is we have a fossil fuel industry on this planet who knows for decades that their product is killing us. They don't have a problem with that because killing us or making us safe are not what capitalism is about. Capitalism is about money and growth. So they have to then lie about what they're doing. They have to spread disinformation. They have to, and I use the word disinformation purposely because disinformation versus misinformation.
Right.
Misinformation is when you're misinformed. You got it wrong.
Yeah.
Disinformation is on purpose. I know
Right.
what the right answer is, but I'm telling you the wrong answer on purpose because I want you to believe that solar is a waste of time, that wind energy, the production of windmills kills birds or whales or whatever crap they're saying. I want you to believe that the only way that we can have sustainable energy on this planet is through fossil fuels, that there's no other
Right.
way, even though we've got this giant ball of energy in the sky, raining energy down on us, more energy in a day than we could use in a year. It's all right there and it's free, but we can't use it
Yeah.
for free because nobody's making money on that. That's how this happens. It's our capitalist system that then
Mm.
it's a cancer metastasizing on our entire planet that then creates this culture of disinformation, and then nobody knows what's true anymore. You turn on this news channel and they're saying this. You turn on this news channel, they're saying the complete opposite. And if you're not really paying attention and immersing yourself into one or the other world, you have no idea which one's correct. And unfortunately, you have a lot of people who don't know which one's correct. And you have a lot of people who are immersing themselves in the incorrect one on purpose. And they just believe everything that's incorrect. I could talk about this for 75 days, but let's not. I'll end it there. I think I answered your question.
Now you've done a good analysis of that. So on one side is the selfish interests who are perpetuating the lies or disinformation is the right term. But I'm curious to know on the other side where there is the climate alarmism or using the fear and
I'm
there is
glad you
some
brought that up.
yeah, and there are some school of thoughts which suggest that when you use fear to communicate to people, it shuts the part of the brain that makes them think. And so I'm not a psychologist, but I'm just curious to know how the ones who are not using good storytelling, inspiring, like the solutions you've mentioned, but just using alarmism, which from a news perspective, it appears people tend to respond more to negative news than positive. So I'm curious to know if we can tease out on that side.
Thank you so much for this opening because this is the crux of it. On the one side, you have the disinformation. The easy part about disinformation is it doesn't require research. It doesn't require facts. It doesn't require sources. It just requires opening your mouth and saying whatever the heck you feel like. Wind kills whales. That 3 words plants seeds of doubt. No facts, no documents, no data necessary. Just 3. Wind kills whales. Solar doesn't work at night. 5 words. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
that's it. That's all it takes to just make everybody go, oh, well, that's no good. This is too expensive, right? 4 words. That's all it takes.
yeah,
So that's on the one side. The other side, the greentech side, has science, which requires research and experimentation and nuance and understanding and explanations with detailed white papers and all. And nobody has time for that. Nobody has the mental capacity for that. So what they try to do is they try to say, look, maybe you'll understand this. If we don't lower the temperature of this planet, here's the one we hear all the time. If the global average temperature of this planet reaches 1.5 degrees Celsius higher than it is now, terrible things are going to happen. We're going to reach the point of no return, and it just makes us sound like we're all going to die because this thing that I don't understand is going to happen. 1.5 degrees? Give me a break. So if I go outside and it's 70, we use Fahrenheit here. So if I go outside and it's 70 degrees Fahrenheit, I know that's warm. If I go outside and it's 71.5 degrees Fahrenheit, that's not dramatically warmer. What are you talking about? You
In
know,
comparison,
tell me that it's getting like 50 degrees warmer and then I'll be alarmed. Nobody understands what 1.5 degrees means. It takes understanding, it takes nuance, it takes detail. Whereas the disinformation takes 4 words, 3 words.
Yeah.
Wind kills whales, right? It's a hoax. That's all it takes. And now nobody knows what to believe. But you're 100% right, because when you use the fear, if this happens, then we're going to have more storms. We're going to have this. We're all going to die and blah, 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 blah. People can't handle that. Our nervous systems can't handle that much stress and fear all the time. It's so much easier to just believe the people who are saying, none of that's true. Don't believe that stuff. Come over here where everything's great and we're growing our capitalist society on the back of slaves. It's great. You don't have to be a slave. You can live in a nice house with a white picket fence. Don't worry about it. Just do your thing and send your kids to school and vote for us and just have your job and live your life and hurry up and die so we can make room for somebody else. That's the promise of the disinformation side. It's easier to swallow and you don't have all the stress of the world on you because, quite frankly, who wants to hear that we're all going to die? I don't want to hear it. I can't handle it. This is my business, you know? So that's why I always say Planet Bonehead is climate change education for kids without the doom and gloom. The doom and gloom doesn't work. I'm not here to scare kids. I'm here to empower them. I'm here to make them understand, to grow up and be like, hey, we have the solutions. Let's just use them. Grow up and say, we have to use these solutions instead of saying we can't afford these solutions. That's not an option. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely. Yeah,
All
it
right.
answers
I'll stop
perfectly.
there.
So one of the examples I always give is when the ozone layer depletion issue came up, in the previous century. In one way or the other, action was taken, solutions were found. Yes, it took some time. So perhaps that ties in with empowering the young generation to be able to find the solutions in order to solve that. So that's great. Looking at the Planet Bonehead, what are the biggest obstacles that schools and partners usually face, in terms of getting on board with the key initiatives?
Schools?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are any, schools and the partners. Yeah.
So I don't deal directly with schools. It was an avenue that was open to me, and I was looking into making it where I was going to bring Planet Bonehead directly to schools myself, but I didn't want to be in the business of selling things to schools. It was never what I wanted to do. So the way that I am my program is already in schools, but the way that is I use distributors. So the distributors do the selling for me, and then the teachers find me through the distributors. So I can't really speak to that question, but if I may go back to what you said in the run up to that question about the ozone layer, can I speak to that
Sure,
for a
absolutely.
moment? Okay.
Yes.
So you said the ozone layer, because that is a perfect example of what I am talking about here. Years ago, not many years ago, I remember I was a young man. I wasn't even a kid. The ozone layer had a giant hole in it, and it was letting radiation in, and we're all going to die. So there was doom and gloom. But scientists said, okay, yeah, it's bad, but we can fix it because we know what's causing it. The problem is that we're all using these aerosol cans that are letting out these gases. I think it was Freon or something. And that's breaking up the oxygen atoms, molecules in the ozone, and it's breaking them up, and then we don't have that protective layer of ozone. All we have to do is stop using these cans. We can use some other technology that doesn't let out this stuff. And all the countries of the world went, okay, that sounds good. And they started passing laws that we're going to stop using these cans and we're going to start using these cans instead. And everybody went, I don't care. I still get my deodorant,
Yeah.
I still can do what I want to do. And everybody was happy. And we haven't completely fixed the hole yet, but the hole is shrinking and it's on track to completely close up in like 20, 30, 40 years, whatever it is. But the problem's over. The emergency is over. That is a perfect example of what greentech tried to do with climate change. Oh, hey, guys, the temperature's going up, but fear not. All we have to do is start using wind power and solar power instead of burning fossil fuels. The reason the ozone worked and this one's not is because there was no big ozone industry. There was no big aerosol can industry saying, no, aerosol cans are the wave of the future, and if we don't use aerosol cans, we can't afford these other cans. They're way too expensive and they kill whales. Nobody was saying any of that garbage when it came to this because nobody cared. Even the can companies were just like, yeah, we could just take this cartridge out and put this cartridge in. It doesn't matter. Nobody cared. But the oil companies and the coal people, they care. They can't have us switching from their thing to this other thing. And what has always boggled my mind is that they could have just said, we're not digging for oil anymore. We're building windmills. We're not digging for coal anymore. We're building solar. They could have just done that and kept their monopoly and kept their capital growth, and it would have been fine. But they didn't. And they opened up the market for the people who will bring those things. And now that market is crushing their market and they're fighting back. And I think they're going to lose. But it's got to be this big battle for no reason whatsoever. There's no reason for this. So the ozone thing is a perfect example of what happens when you don't have the capitalist pressure.
Yeah.
Because nobody cared what cans we used. And I don't sell to schools. So I don't hear like the pushback from the teachers directly.
That's all right. I mean, it was just out of if there are any schools, personnel, or stakeholders maybe listening to this and maybe in their mind, because again, the human mind may just go, I wonder what the challenge might be, but clearly you don't operate in
Well,
that
the
space.
challenge for the schools would be, number one, they can't afford it, because the original way that I was bringing Planet Bonehead into schools was through these distributors, as I said.
Right.
So think of these distributors as like Netflix for schools. You got this company and they can subscribe to it and then they can stream everything in their library. And then this company, same thing. And my program is just one of the programs in their streaming library, along with PBS and National Geographic and Discovery and Disney and stuff like that. Lots of schools use it, but many schools can't afford programs like that. And at the same time, there are plenty of STEM, science, video learning programs that do go directly to schools. And they're like, maybe a couple $1,000s a year for one school, or a few $100s a year for one classroom. And so many schools can't afford that. They just can't. So they end up going without. Or even worse, what happens is the teachers end up paying out of pocket. Now, speaking of capitalism, I decided I don't like the idea of teachers paying out of pocket for my thing. So, maybe I don't deserve my capitalist membership card. But that was my decision. I didn't want to see teachers paying out of pocket to use Planet Bonehead. So I was like, how can I make this free? So I built planetbonehead.com as an option to get Planet Bonehead, and if you don't have those distributors, and the program is there for free. You can buy it for $0 if you want. And so what I'm doing, instead of making the teachers pay for it, I'm looking for a sponsor to pay for it, and that's what I'm doing.
We've certainly explored why climate education is so critical, but what are kids telling you they want to learn?
Okay, so kids aren't like telling me, but there's plenty of research on this. And the numbers are very, very high. They're in like the 70s, 80% of the percentage of teachers that want to teach kids about climate change. It's like 75% surveyed. The percentage of children that want to learn about it because they have anxiety. They hear all this stuff. They want to know what's real. They want to learn about it. The problem that is happening is that teachers want to teach kids about this. Kids want to learn about it. Parents want it taught, but the teachers lack the knowledge and they lack the resources. So it's not even just that I'm trying to make it for free. It's also that I'm even just trying to make it Planet Bonehead, because to my knowledge, there are no resources teaching what I'm teaching. There are none. It doesn't exist. There are some resources that are teaching climate science for kids. They're explaining what global warming is, and they're explaining the greenhouse effect. And all of that's great, but that's the doom and gloom science, That's the basic scientific facts. So now I understand how it works, but I still don't know what to do about it. I'm teaching the empowerment. I'm opening their eyes to green tech industries that they don't even know exists. The teachers don't know it exists. The kids don't know it exists. Amazing careers in science, in engineering, in the trades that are just waiting for them, hungry for them. These people are desperate for workforce development programs to prepare kids for careers in their fields. But kids just aren't learning about it because nobody knows about it there are no resources to teach about it, so I'm making one. I'm making one as quickly and as well as I can. Even most of the STEM things out there have climate videos or a climate unit or something like that, but they touch on the surface. I'm trying to teach them, look, this is this specific problem, and these are specific green technologies that we have today, not things we're designing, not things we might have in 5, 10, 20 years, things that we have
Yeah, no.
today. It works. The
Mm,
company sells it. You know what I mean? Like it's being used.
mm,
It's just not being used at scale.
right.
That's the problem.
That's good. Getting those research is always good opportunity because it's more on a larger scale than on individual base. That's always useful. So what's mission possible and how are you working toward the 100 million kids goal by 2033?
Well, Mission Possible. So, all right. So, just to understand the background here, the Boneheads are my characters, and the Boneheads are like these super spies that work out of Hope headquarters, Help Our Planet Earth, and they're always fighting the evil J.P. Rothbone, this mega corporate tycoon guy who he's always looking to make money. It's got anything that he does has two rules: it has to make him a lot of money, and it has to be bad for the planet. Those are the two rules. Even so, we're always offering him ways to make the same amount of money in a way that's good for the planet, and he's always like, "No, we're not doing that. We're doing this one." And that's like I'm trying to explain how the world works to kids without being an ogre and getting all grumpy. So
No worries.
so that's the basic thing. And the spy theme I was pulling into the working with greentech. So I use Mission Impossible as sort of and James Bond and things like that. I use tropes from those things in the cartoons. So I thought it's not Mission Impossible, it's Mission Possible. And so in the real world, I'm working with green tech companies on a Mission Possible program where I want to work with green tech companies to create videos for the Think Like Engineers segment of the program about their specific green technology. If I'm doing something if I have a unit about solar energy, or I have a unit about recycling, or I have a unit about whatever, and you have a piece of green technology that fits in that unit, I want to make a video about it and put it in the unit. Hey kids, here's a thing that's working right now to solve all the problems we've been talking about today. This company makes this thing, and then I explain how it works, and I explain why it works, and I explain why we need it, and I explain how it's solving the problem. And then I invite the kids to design their own version of it. How would you make this better? How would you make it bigger? How would you make it whatever, And that becomes the lesson plan that the teachers can then do. They can design their own prototypes. They can build them. They can demonstrate them, whatever the teacher wants to do. And so Mission Possible is inviting green tech companies to come work with me to make this content. That's what that is.
How were you able to simplify those complex topics, carbon tech and ocean acidity, into what an 8-year-old can understand and act on? Now, I know there are AI tools, perhaps, but I'm curious to know on your journey how you were able to overcome those, well, if overcome the challenges, or you were able to create a breakthrough.
Yeah. So I do this on my own. I used to have other people that worked with me on it. I used to have a partner that did the research for the educational parts, but she left the company about 11, 12 years ago. So for a while, I wasn't making new units because I didn't understand the needs of the school for the educational parts. I was the guy who did the video editing and the animation and the storytelling and the fun things, But then I started to learn about green technology, and I realized, because I do have an engineering background. I went to school for engineering and I went to school for art. So I'm like one of those left brain, right brain people. I can be creative and analytical at the same time. And a lot of my clients in marketing and design have always been engineering companies because I'm good at taking their very complex things and explaining them to their lay audience. And so when I started talking to green tech people about 6 or 7 years ago, I started to realize that they had all those problems, that they had solutions that nobody understood. They had solutions that nobody knew about. Green tech is saving the world, but nobody knows about it. That's another one of my Planet Bonehead taglines. So I was like, I can explain this, and I can explain it to kids. Now, Planet Bonehead is for grades 3 to 5. So they're like 8 to 11, 12 years old, and which is perfect for me because with the cartoon part, it's who I want to speak to because they haven't been molded yet to be in the I can't camp. They're still in the I can camp. And that's where I want to connect with them. But so now I realize that I can do it. What I needed to do is figure out how to take what greentech is doing and apply it to the standards that are required for the curriculum in the classroom. Because if a teacher can't point to the standards that they're using, then they can't use the program no matter how good it is.
Mm.
They have to know that I'm teaching this standard. It fits in the curriculum this way. They have to be able to write their lesson plans in a way that they can justify it to the administration or to their state or their county or whatever they answer to. So for that, I use a lot of AI and research. The AI helps me give me the ideas, and then I do my own research to make sure that the AI got it right, because you can't just believe whatever AI says. But doing the research from scratch was kind of hard because I didn't know where to start. So the AI kind of gives me ChatGPT gives me a starting point. I can say, listen, I want to teach it about this. This is the green technology I want to talk with them about. How does this fit into science standards for grades 3 to 5? And it'll tell me. And now I know I've got things. Now I can go and I can look that up. And I can be like, yep, that's right, that's right, that's right. And so far, it's actually been right all the time with this. It's very good at this. And so it's been helping me. And then it helps me to come up with ideas for the lesson plans. So, I'm a smart guy, but I can't come up with every idea all by myself. So in lieu of a team of people doing this, I have my ChatGPT partner and we do it together. And then I have Google to make sure that it's correct. So that's how I do it.
Yeah, that's impressive. I think I've got that experience with the AI and the ChatGPT where it's an augmenting tool. It's probably 60, 70% there, and it needs that human expertise to be able to guide it. And again, 60, 70% is a lot, if we're starting from
Yeah.
scratch. No, absolutely. And personally, being able to identify where the limitations are takes time and finding where those limitations are. So that's good. What makes humor, laughter, the animation tools so effective for education and empowerment?
The humor part, I think, is essential, because if you just put on a documentary about some green technology, most of the kids will check out. I'm not into science. I'm not good at this, and you're going to miss them. We found that the thing that the kids connect with the most are the characters, the cartoon characters. So I create the characters to have different personalities. I create Bonehead to be the hero, but he bungles the job a lot. He is literally a bonehead. He's not a perfect hero. And I have Wishbone, who is the female counterpart to Bonehead. She believes she has these superpowers, but she doesn't. So she's always trying to use her superpowers to save the day, but really she's just making a lot of noise. But she thinks that her superpowers saved the day. I have Marrow, another female character, who is the highly intelligent one who explains the scientific parts. And it was very important to me to make her female because there are far too few girls in STEM. And I wanted to present a female character that had all the answers. That was the smart one that knew the science part. And then I have T-Bone, who he didn't start this way. And I even just said he. I've transitioned T-Bone to where I'm using they, them to explain T-Bone. I wanted to bring an LGBTQ character into Planet Bonehead without being in your face about it. I'm never going to say T-Bone's gay. I mean, this is for little kids, but I figured using they, them pronouns in future units is going to be enough of an indication. I always had it in my head that T-Bone was like a trans character. And it's very important to me to be inclusive. I wanted to figure out how to make it so that every kid can see themselves in the boneheads. That's hard to do. And I'm not perfect at it. I know I failed. And somebody will say, what about these people? And I'd be like, I didn't even think about them. I'm sorry, but my intention is to make it so that every child can see themselves no matter how they identify themselves, whether it's by their skin color or race or by their sexuality or gender. Sexuality is interesting to say with little kids. I don't mean sexual, but I mean, their gender or even their confusion, because a lot of these kids don't feel safe in the world. And I want Planet Bonehead to be a place where they feel safe.
Right.
That's what's important to me. So The characters pull a lot of heavy duty. They do that part for me. The other part they do is they're just fun to watch and it's silly and it gets their attention. And the other part that they do is that they touch upon the topic where the kids understand we're going to start talking about recycling. We're going to start talking about why this is important. We're going to start talking about why this ocean plastic is killing sea turtles. We're going to start talking about that, but we haven't gotten into anything that's really scary yet or overly science-y where I'm going to be like, oh my God, I'm exhausted from this. The characters pull all of that heavy duty and then the documentary parts come into play. So that's why they're important.
Yeah, that's looks like you've had a good thought of the different rules.
Yeah, and this has been evolving, by the way, over like 15, 20 years. Like I didn't sit down and design everything in one shot. Like I was just like, we should make it be this. And then I added this. And then the whole thing with T-Bone and the pronouns is relatively new. I have cartoons made that I didn't include that because I'd never thought of it before, but I thought of it now. So it will be for future cartoons. But yeah, it's constantly evolving. So there's that.
Good. What is a great example of a founder who turned their tech into a kid-powered message?
I'll tell you my favorite one. There's a company in the UK called Hughes Energy, and they have technology which is not even all that amazing. It's technology from the 1800s. It's Jules Verne stuff. It's what's called an autoclave. It's a giant metal tube. That's all that it is. And you can put steam into it and apply high pressure and steam and temperature. Pressure and temperature and steam into this tube. And what you do is you take garbage, you just scoop it right out of a landfill and you put it inside this tube. You don't have to sort it or do anything to it. You just scoop it out of the landfill, throw it in this tube, shut the door, turn it on, and the steam and the pressure and the temperature just push on it and push on it and push on it for 1 hour. And after 1 hour, all of that garbage has been transformed into this fibrous material. It's all this uniform fibrous material. I don't understand how this works, but it does. And that material is then used to create alternatives for coal, oil, and wood chips. There are processes to turn it into any of those three things. And then, so instead of burning coal, you burn the coal that you made from this fiber, and it burns clean. Instead of using oil, you make oil out of this fiber and you use that and it burns clean. And same with the wood chips. So we're killing two birds with one stone here. We're solving two incredibly important problems. We have all the greenhouse gas emissions, the methane, the CO2, and not to mention the smell and just the space being wasted in the water, the garbage seeping into the water from the landfills. Because despite our recycling efforts, we have not slowed down our garbage creation on this planet. We have more garbage every year than the year before. So now we can take all that garbage and turn it into fuel through a process that takes an hour and doesn't create any emissions in the process. And then it turns that into a fuel we can use where now we don't even have to use solar or wind. We can still use oil and coal, but we don't have to dig it out of the ground. We can make it from this stuff and now it'll burn clean. This is solving all the problems. This one company could literally solve climate change all by themselves. So it just boggles my mind that I've known about this for years and we still aren't doing it. Why? Because it's not culturally accepted. And that's what I'm trying to solve with Planet Bonehead.
Now that's impressive. So what is your final thought for greentech CEOs or funders listening right now? What is your final thought?
For greentech CEOs, I want to work with you to make videos about your projects. I know that a lot of greentech CEOs don't have a lot of funding, so I'm trying to figure out ways to do that economically for them. I can't always do it for free, but the problem that I'm having is that because they can't pay me to do it, I end up not making these videos, and that's not sitting well with me either. So I'm trying to figure out how to do this for free for greentech too. And the way that I came up with was to get a sponsor, and I mean one sponsor. Now, here's my pitch to that, if I can have 2 minutes to do this. We do not have a technology problem. We do not have a financing problem. We have a cultural crisis. People just don't believe in this. They don't believe in climate change. They believe it's a hoax. They don't believe that green techs can solve the problem. They believe that it's too expensive or it's too dangerous or it's too this or it's too that. They just don't believe it. We have to change that narrative. And the only way to do that You can't do it by making better technology. All the technology exists. We've got enough technology to solve climate change 15. Technology is not the problem. You can't throw more money at a Series A or a Series B funding or a Series C or a Series whatever. It doesn't matter. All the funding in the world. There are countless green tech companies that have gotten hundreds of millions of dollars in funding and then failed. And they didn't fail because their tech didn't work. They failed because nobody accepted it. Nobody embraced it, and it did not scale. That's why every single time. The reason is because we don't have the education structure in this world, in this country, my country, your country, any country. Not in Africa, not in Asia, not in Europe, not in Australia, not in North or South America. It does not exist. We don't have the education infrastructure to combat the disinformation. The disinformation machine is strong and it has decades of momentum. And I'm one guy trying to do this with my dogs in the back, trying to make a program to teach kids to counter this disinformation machine. So what I decided to do is say, hey, somebody, if you want to make a name for yourself, instead of putting your name on the next green tech thing that's going to fail, or the next finance capitalist investment company that's investing in this amazing portfolio of green tech things that aren't culturally sustainable, put your name on this. I have spot for one sponsor. One. I don't have a gold level and silver level and bronze level. I don't want to be in the sponsor selling business. I want one person or company to stand up and say, I want to put my name on that. Planet Bonehead brought to you by this guy.
Right.
I don't care, or this girl, or this company. I don't care who it is. All right. Well, don't be a Nazi. But so there's one slot. And when I find that slot, that's it. I'm done looking. I'm not looking anymore. You missed it. So that's my pitch is call me. Connect with me on LinkedIn and let's be that person and help me do this because we can do this. Education is always the key to fixing things. It always has been throughout human history. That's why Nazis and fascists want to burn books. That's the first thing they want to do is burn the books. Why? Because education is the key to combating that. Education is the key to combating this. But the disinformation machine is very powerful. But kids don't listen to the disinformation machine. They listen to cartoons.
Huge thank you to Bobby for your time and the incredible insights that you've shared on the various aspects and the opportunities it brings. If listeners like the work or maybe the sponsor is listening, where can they find your work, Bobby?
Well, you can see Planet Bonehead for yourself at planetbonehead.com, just as it sounds. The best way to connect with me personally is on LinkedIn. So that's linkedin.com/in/Bobby Donohue, just as it's spelled right there. And that's me. So look me up on there, connect with me. I'm open to connections. You don't have to just follow me. You can connect and let's talk. Let's do. I'm already doing this, by the way. Planet Bonehead isn't an idea. It's already in 1,000 schools. 100,000 teachers use it. It's been used by 3 million kids since 2011 in 86 countries. It's a thing. I just need to grow it. I just need to reach 30 million kids, 100 million kids. And I can't do that all by myself. I need somebody to step up and say, here's some funding to go do that. Just go do it.
That's impressive.
That person exists. I just need to find them.
And hopefully through this reach and visibility, the message can be spread out there. Thank you once again.
Thank you. I appreciate it so much, Enoch. Thank you so much.
Comes.